Hello, and welcome to the HIPAA Vault Show, where we discuss all things HIPAA compliance and cloud technology. My name is Adam Zenadine, your host, and joining me, as always, is my co host and founder of HIPAA Vault, Gil Vidals. Gil, I'm looking forward to talking about WooCommerce websites with you today.
Yep, I'm happy to be here today and excited to talk about the insights on the costs of using WooCommerce for online medical and healthcare stores, and especially when it comes to HIPAA compliance.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. A lot of healthcare businesses are drawn to WooCommerce because it's a free plugin, but there's a lot more to consider, especially regarding HIPAA compliance. So, can you walk us through the costs?
Sure. So WooCommerce is a plugin to WordPress, and it does have a free tier uh, that you can get. So that gives the illusion, okay, I don't have to pay for this. I'm going to get all this great shopping experience for free, no cost. Well, to secure the environment around that plugin, it does cost to do that so the environment is HIPAA compliant. And we can start with the infrastructure, that is the HIPAA compliant hosting, which I think is a crucial part for protecting the website.
How much should businesses expect to pay for HIPAA compliant hosting?
Well, let me start off by saying that when it comes to compliance, that's going to cost you more, significantly more than if you went to one of these places like Wix or GoDaddy, where you can get, for $20 a month, some hosting where there's no compliance. So I would say the cost would start at around $500 a month. And keep in mind that it hasn't always been 500. It was a lot less before COVID, and it's been dramatically going up as inflation has been rising. We all know the sad story of inflation. So that 500 price, I say, is pretty relevant to today's
Mhm.
pricing.
Yeah, and that's a substantial cost right from the start. So, what other expenses should businesses in healthcare be aware of?
Well, beyond the hosting, there's the security measures that are included with the hosting provider, the infrastructure provider. Besides that, you've got the domain name. So let's say you have a brand new healthcare application, you have to go out and buy a domain name. Now that's not very expensive. That would be about 15 to $20 a year. And then you would need to get a theme for your WooCommerce plugin. So you want a compatible theme. When I say theme, I mean the WordPress theme. That's the color schema, the layout. You want that to be compatible with your WooCommerce plugin, and those are going to cost roughly $50 per year. And that's important to pay for those themes. Your goal shouldn't be to get everything for free, because as they say, you get what you pay for. You want to be able to pay so you can get support, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and then there's extensions and plugins that also come with associated costs, right? What would those extensions be, and give us some examples of the costs associated?
Okay, if your healthcare operation, your shopping cart involves shipping,
Mm.
then you need to get a shipping calculator plugin. Those could be about $79 a month. That's the one that tells you, or tells the prospect that's on your shopping cart, how much it could cost to ship, UPS or wherever they're located. So that's about $79 annually. The other one is a subscription management one, where let's say you're selling something where they're subscribing to some kind of health related subscription. That could cost about $200 a year. And so that manages the subscriptions that your clientele needs in order to renew whatever you're selling them, assuming that it's a subscription-based healthcare app. So that's $199 for that, and then the shopping or the shipping calculator about $80.
Yeah, and those functionality related costs add up quite quickly. Are there any other HIPAA related expenses to consider that may or may not be included in the hosting?
Yeah. So besides the domain name that we mentioned, the domain name, when people hear that, they think, oh yeah, I want my domain to be what they desire, and that's going to allow you to get on the web and go to that website. But that doesn't include the security certificate. So that's what gives the security behind the S in HTTPS. So that's secure socket layer certificate. That certificate, which does the encryption of the information flowing between your customer and your website, that's going to cost you, anywhere from $50 to $150. There is a Let's Encrypt, which is a good free solution. So if the provider can give you a Let's Encrypt certificate, that potentially could be a free option. So I think those are some of the costs involved. And as you can see, you're going to spend several hundreds of dollars, per year on this.
Sounds like the costs are significant. How would you advise healthcare businesses to approach the budgeting aspects for HIPAA compliant e-commerce, WooCommerce stores?
Yeah, one thing that we haven't talked about so far, Adam, is the traffic. And so if you're brand new and you're going to be doing this with the grassroots type of scenario, where you're picking yourself up by the bootstraps and it's going to be very slow at the beginning, get your first customer, then your site requirements will be minimal in terms of how much traffic and how robust the hosting needs to be. But if you are going to be spending lots and lots of money of investors and they're going to be putting ads everywhere, even a new site might garner a lot of traffic. And you need that site to be running 24/7. You can't afford any downtime. So you need to factor that in. So just very, very rough ballpark figure. If you're doing a basic site, like a HIPAA Vault, we have a WordPress hosting for protecting PHI data that could cost you as little as $99 a month. But clients that need and have a need for lots of traffic and uptime that's continual, they'll be paying anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 more a month, depending on the architecture. But if you just wanted a round number, you could say, well, you should be budgeting about $500 per month for HIPAA compliant hosting, plus an additional $1,000 to $2,000 for the necessary extensions, the theme, security measures, and then more complex stores could easily cost an extra $6,000.
Yeah, so it is a significant investment. Obviously, as you said, for businesses growing organically, what's the main takeaway for listeners regarding? Well, first, do you agree with that? And then, what's the main takeaway for our listeners regarding WooCommerce and HIPAA compliant e-commerce stores?
I think the main takeaway is that even though it's attractive to the eye to say, "Oh, I get a free widget, a free plugin," that's really not the total cost of ownership. So you want to think about the TCO. What's my total cost of ownership, including all the things we mentioned in this podcast? And so you really need to consider that so you have a comprehensive plan and you're not surprised by the cost for that. But having said all of that, WooCommerce setup can still be cost effective, especially if you have some in-house technical expertise or you hired a consultant. That's a WooCommerce could be a good option. And for others, maybe a more all-inclusive HIPAA compliant e-commerce platform. There are platforms that focus on just e-commerce and then you just move into there and they would have a subscription price where everything's included. And that could be another way to handle that as well.
Great insights, Gil. Let's do a quick recap, if I may, for our listeners. The key points we covered today: WooCommerce is free, but HIPAA compliant hosting adds additional costs for themes, plugins, and HIPAA specific tools can easily exceed an extra $1,000 per year. Ongoing expenses for security updates and staff training need to be factored in, and the TCO, total cost of ownership, including all HIPAA compliance measured, should be the focus when considering an e-commerce platform for healthcare. Does that cover the main points there, Gil?
Yeah, that was a great summary, Adam. I would like to add just one more point is that once a year, it's pretty common security practice to scan the website looking for vulnerabilities. So that's something that can be done by either the provider, the hosting provider. They probably would do that. You can ask for that report, or if it's an extra charge, it's something that you do want to have that, and you do want to have that report on file. You want to take a look at it and see what it says. So I would add that to the list as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Gil. And thank you so much for tuning in to the HIPAA Vault Show. If you want to learn more about HIPAA compliant solutions, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay secure and HIPAA compliant.